Coach Korn here.
Hey, looks like we might be in. Finally.
I know a couple of people are talking that they had
You guys
issues
hear me okay?
getting on.
Yes.
So maybe it's
You can
something with
unmute
the
yourself and let me know if you can hear me.
We hear
Can
you.
hear you.
Yes.
All
Yes,
right.
hear you.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, I used my browser and it must have been trying to pull up the old one. It was in cookie memory. So I opened up a new browser and I got in just fine. Technology, gotta love it. All right, guys, thanks for your patience. I hope everybody hung in there and we didn't lose anybody because we got some fun stuff for today. And I definitely want to get into the material and have you experience Ignite in a way you maybe haven't experienced before. So before we get started, how many people, and you guys probably have your chat, how many people were in the session last time? You can either do your chat or you can unmute. I'd like to just know how many people are coming through for a second time. Woo woo. So today is the first session, Spark One. How many people, actually, before I even do that, how many people type in, you've been here for your first time? This is your first time for Ignite.
This is my first time, Freddy Salcedo.
I have no chat to type in. First time.
Okay, yep, you guys can unmute. And if you like roll over your window where the stuff is, there's usually some stuff at the bottom, like has your video, your microphone, your mute, and there's a chat box, or it might be under your more button if you want to chat as well.
I don't see any of that. I had problems getting on.
Yeah. And so here's the thing with technology, some of these, the computer.
it just came up.
Oh, go ahead.
My
Yeah, I was just going to say, sometimes the computer keeps stuff in memory. And that's what it was doing to me on my Google Chrome. It was keeping in memory the link we had from July, August, and this was a new link. So sometimes if you're having issues on that, just open up another browser like Explorer or Safari or something like that. Try pasting it in there and we'll see what will take care of that. But so I want to get this going and get started so we can get you guys out of here in the next hour. And make sure you get enough out of this session that you're going to be excited about Ignite and coming to this session, not only this round if it's your first time, but also a third time if this is your second time. And also, I just loved it for you guys to be so excited about what we talked about in this hour here that, I mean, you're telling other people around the office, if you have some agent friends that you co-op with that you think would benefit from being at Keller Williams, you can share it with them and invite them to come take a taste of some of the training that we have. And I want to just let you know that the way the Ignite is structured this time is to help you be more plugged in and stay tuned in through the whole Ignite session, because original Ignite could be like a day-long training. We could spend a day going through this book, right? We could spend 4 hours going through this book, which there's formats of that. With an hour commitment 3 days a week, we feel like we're going to be able to get more of you to at least tune in and get stuff that you can take back to your business and grow your business and get on that millionaire agent path, applying the KW principles. And, you know, even with an hour commitment 3 times a week, it's a lot. I mean, it's a major commitment. So that's the other thing. Just look at your schedule. And if there's any way you can block this out and just protect it like it's a $5 million listing, right? Protect that time. I promise you, I won't waste your time, because that brings me to the next part of the instructions for this class, is that this is a kind of a free-flowing conversation. You'll find that with me, the way that I teach and train is not to have a PowerPoint up and just read through the slides and do it that way. It is to have a conversation around the topics, how they apply to real-world real estate. And it doesn't matter if you're a brand new agent or if you've got a team with a bunch of people on your team, being able to take this information, bringing it back to the team, or even if your team members are in Ignite, them being able to bring it back to the team and enhance and grow your guys' business. So we're going to get into the slides here in a minute, but I got one more thing I want to layer in here, and you guys will see this as we go through the slides as well. I need to put my slide presentation up here because we do have slides just to stay on track and make sure I cover all the topics that we want to cover. Now I got to find my screen. Hang on one second. Let me get my screen up here so I can share the screen. Boom, share, should be good. You guys all see the screen now with the PowerPoint Ignite Spark 1? Do I at least have that showing? Yep. Okay, good. Good. Okay, so let me get this moved over here so I can see you guys. Come on. I want to be able to see you guys and see your chat. And because this is a free-flowing kind of conversation, I also want to say that you can use the chat, but feel free to unmute yourself and jump in whenever you have a question, because I may not, I've got 3 different screens going here. And sometimes what happens when I get going on a conversation, if you were at the last session, I can go. I'm trying to get you a lot of information in an hour, and yet I want it to make sense to you some way that you can grab it and use it in your business. It's not about Brad Korn just wanting to sit here and talk to you for an hour. That has nothing to do with it. What, if anything, me teaching this class with you guys and all this material is I went through the MREA book. I implemented the MREA book. When I see that material in Ignite, I take it out into the marketplace and I put it into place and I implement. And I figure out a lot of things that work and I figure out a lot of things that don't work. And then I tweak those a little bit and I figure out how to make them work. And so even though we have in these books that you can download, you guys should all have a Google Drive. And if you don't have a Google Drive, you will be able to email like somebody in your leadership in your office, because I know we have several offices on here, to find out what that link is to where all of our Ignite stuff is. And they have a pretty thick brochure. Remember, this was designed as a full day kind of class originally. Then they've done some variations of 4 hours. We're doing it in an hour. And to get the most out of these sessions, first of all, you make the commitment. You put it on your calendar. 3 hours a week is what we're asking for. The second part of that is if you can print this book or pull it up on your iPad or whatever and skim through it right before class or the day before our session. So after today, if you pull down tomorrow's session, Spark 2, and just skim through the material, come to the session, it will mean a lot more to you. And then the last thing I would say is review this right after, like even in the morning, right? Review today's session tomorrow, right before you review tomorrow's or Wednesday's session. And you're just going to kind of double and quadruple up on seeing the information a couple different times. You get to see it, you get to hear it. Now you get to recap it and look at your notes. And if you just do that 1 hour, 5 days a week to invest in your business for the next, 18 weeks, it's a commitment, right? But if you do that for the next 18 weeks, you're not going to remember everything that we cover. It is a lot of stuff, and it's a lot of good stuff. It's not busy stuff. It's good information that can help you grow your business. And then it's the how-to as well when we get to elements, that if you can kind of do that and you do that through here, you're going to have so much more of this stick and it starts to show up in your business. So it's going to be very conversational. We're still going to go through all the material. We don't go through the very end of the book, which is like the specific scripts. I will cover any specific script that matches anything that arises from any of you as you're hearing this content. You're like, oh man, I just had that happen and I needed a script. We want to cover scripts right then. The scripts and stuff at the end of the book where you do your 10 a day and all the homework and assignments all happen outside of this hour. So even if you have to block out 2 hours and then go back through the book right after, go through this handout right after the session and complete the action items, I'm telling you, you're going to get a ton more out of Ignite. Now, the even better thing is we give you a few weeks break in between one session to the next session so you can have a breather. But if you even commit to do this, say for the next 12 months, and you go through Ignite 4 times and you do this stuff, It doesn't matter whether you do every single assignment in every single book, every single time. But when you make that commitment, the right assignments are going to start showing up as your business is growing into it. And every time you come through Ignite, you're going to hear something different than you did the first time. So with that, I'm going to jump into the slides. Unless anybody wants to unmute now and say anything about what you're really hoping to get out of Ignite or out of this session, if you did pre-look at the material or anything like that. I want to kind of take a breath here and make sure that if there's something you would like to make sure we get out of today, that you have the option to jump in and say that, because I want this to be a conversation with all of us. This is your guys' class. I call it a class, but it's really not a class. I mean, if anything, we're a bunch of business people that are getting together, talking about business ideas and how to grow our business. All right. So nobody's muted. Too new. First session. I didn't really expect you guys to have a whole lot of questions. Let's see. I am picking up just a little bit of background noise, so I'm gonna mute where I think that might be open. So Michelle, if you do want to talk, I did mute you. You can unmute yourself. No big deal. All right, guys. So we're gonna get into this. Your big why. Okay, I'm gonna stop right here because we're already starting out with coaching kind of big why stuff. And guys, I cannot tell you enough how important this slide is as we're starting Ignite in the next 18 weeks. Okay, or not 18 weeks, 18 sessions. That probably scared a bunch of you going, 18 weeks, 18 sessions. It's like it's a 2-month commitment that you're going to commit to your business, right? But I'm telling you, the big why, if you haven't really sat down and gone through what your big why is, and what the big why is what is really truly going to drive you to jump out of bed every single day and come and do this real estate thing. Because I mean, in real estate, there's like lead generation, there's getting on the phone for an hour, 2 hours a day, things like that. That if you guys haven't figured out what gets you really excited about real estate, if anything, real estate, if you're newer, is very frustrating. Real estate, if you have a big team, can be very frustrating and very stressful with overhead, and you're paying for leads. You got $1,000 going out in marketing every month, and you're not sure what's coming back, how much is coming back. And so many times we run our real estate business just on pure, just natural energy and kind of see what happens, right? They call it real estate practice, and you're practicing real estate. But guys, when you figure out what your why is, if that is to be debt free in a year, and I don't care if that's $250,000, real estate is the one tool, the one business that every single person has an equal playing field. Every single person. Now, some people are more successful than others when they come out of the chute. Some people struggle for way longer than they need to, but everybody starts out on an even playing field. And I'm going to reference more than anything the MREA, Millionaire Real Estate Agent. If you don't have that red book yet, make sure you go to your front desk, your office, anyone, and just say, I don't have the MREA book yet. You need a copy of it. Get that book, because it is the Bible on how to build $1 million real estate business. And every one of us start out with the same playing field. Some of us have other strengths than others, that we might be more outgoing or this or that, but we all can make the same amount of money. And I've coached at MAPS, and I'm not at MAPS right now coaching. I'm coaching with you guys, right? You guys got me exclusively thanks to Mary Beth. So you might want to send her a little note and say, thank you very much if you like today's session, right? But we all start out with an even playing field, and we have the same tools. And I have coached people that are introverts, that are not outgoing, that really don't get on the phone and don't call leads and don't get all mushy gushy, if you want to call it that, right? But they build a team around them of people that are outgoing, that can go out and create the relationships, and they're more behind the scenes, and they're the one creating the systems. And then you've got, a lot of rainmakers are the more outgoing person, that they started an individual real estate business, and they go out there and they're very open. They meet people all the time, do all kinds of stuff, and they grow their business, and then they grow their team as they need more people. So that, I mean, that's a more traditional way, but I have had it cleared the other way around where a team was built from the inside out and they weren't the outgoing person. No matter what, we all start on the same playing field and we can all get as big of results as you possibly want, no matter what your personality type is. So once you figure out what your why is, in fact, I'm going to layer this one step further. When you figure out your why, there's two articles that are loaded up on the Google Drive for you all for this Ignite session. And it's the What's Your Why by Kent Burns and the questions to ask yourself. That's the summary version of the book where I basically took what I had read in the book. It was a real easy read, but I put it into a condensed, what do you call it, Cliff Notes version, and kind of broke out the questions that I thought were great. When you master that process with yourself, step number 2, if you do have other people that work on your team, take them through those questions. Find out what their why is, because when you understand what your team's why is and you know what each individual person is, right, then you can talk about that why, and that gets them excited to come in and do the work that you want them to do. And then listen, everybody, whether you don't have anybody that you work with, you master this with your clients, with your sellers and your buyers, and you figure out what their why is. This is where you start seeing things. If you've been through Bold before, Bold is our 7-week commitment course where you go for a whole day, 7 weeks, and you just learn mindset and scripts and all that stuff. That when you figure out your why for your clients, you'll figure out why a lot of those scripts find out about, you know, where do you want to move to? Oh, you want to move to Florida. What's important about Florida? Okay, when do you want to be in Florida? Why is that date important to you? Finding out their why. When you find out somebody's why, including your own, then you know that this is why I need to commit this hour to Ignite every day. Or this is when you're talking to a seller about trying to get them to price their house right. If you master the why questions and you master how to do that because you've taken yourself through it, you can actually shortcut a whole bunch of the scripts that you might have to use to try and get them to price their house right. Because all you have to do is ask them about their why and how important is it to be in there by that date. So you know, if we price it at this price, you're going to get there a lot earlier than if you try to overprice it to see if you can get more. You might not be in Florida by that date. So it kind of is the one thing that once you figure it out, you're actually going to be able to, you'll have to use less scripts and less selling later on when you figure out your why. So got to figure it out, got to figure out what's going to drive you to make the commitment to be in here every week or 3 times a week, right? Okay, so the way this is structured is we're going to talk in the Spark, we're going to talk about growing your business. Just how do you get that stuff? How do you get your business to grow and the mindset and the ideas that go along with that? And then we switch over to essentials that after you've been through the how you're going to do it or the growing of the business, then you're going to come into the how to actually run the business in very specifics. But if something comes up specific while we're going through stuff, guys, jump in. All right. Oh, in fact, here's the other thing. If you do have your little bar of controls and stuff under your more, you may see something like raise a hand, or it's in the chat box. I think you can raise your hand. You guys might see that somewhere. You can definitely raise your hand, and that does pop up on my screen so that I know you want to unmute and say something. So definitely let me know, raise your hand if you want to test it real quick and just see if you find the hand thing. I'll say I saw it come up, and then you can just take it right back down. That way you know how to unmute yourself and ask questions, because this is the important thing about this whole thing, is that you guys are able to ask questions. All right. So let's see here. There was something about in Google Drive under share with me. If you don't have it there, ask your director of agent services and they can definitely get that for you. Okay. So yeah, somebody asked about the workbook. Okay. So the sessions that we're going to go through are growing your business and then running your business. So what is Spark? This is actually the whole Ignite session is Spark and the elements. And the Spark is this part.
This course will allow you to get off to a fast start you can build on. Because if you repeated the principles every 90 days for a year, believe me, you have an awesome first year. And just as important, you would have built a foundation and momentum for your entire career. It is practical, realistic, and easy to apply. It's about the fundamentals that determine your level of success in the business of real estate. From our research with top agents, we have found that they too started their careers with these fundamentals, and they continue to do them along with their teams to this very day. And it's not hard. It just requires a little focused effort, a few hours every day. Now, there is really just one way to achieve the goal. It's lead generation. Other skills are important, yet without leads to work with, your skills won't mean a thing. Dealing with business never takes precedence over what? Finding business. Never. Research shows that top producing agents make lead generation their number one priority and the one thing they make sure they always get done. You can do this. And when you do, you will get the leads, the relationships, the experiences, the career, and the income that you want and deserve. Go get them, and good luck.
All right, guys, so here's what Gary said, and just pause out on the leads thing for a second, okay? Nothing else about your business will have as big of an impact on as the number of leads that you have. But if leads, if LEAD is a 4-letter word to you, you know what a 4-letter word is, right? They're bad words. Whenever somebody says lead generation time, lead generate, time block for lead generation, if you get that uneasy feeling or that uncomfortable feeling, or if you've been in bold, I mean, how many of you have taken bold? You know, just, yep, post that in there, raise your hands, that's yep. And it's like every single time it's like, all right, time to make calls, right? How many of you have seen people like zip out of the room, or you see them go into something and they're not really making calls? I mean, there are plenty of people that are making calls because they really want this real estate thing to work. But I have been with top agents that have been in business for a long time, and I know them personally, right? And we're in bold. And I watch them just start squirming in their chair and they're just uncomfortable. So if lead generation is uncomfortable for you, just remember one thing. What is the most important thing Gary said you need? Leads, right? Doesn't mean you have to not have fun. Doesn't mean you have to not get comfortable. And believe me, I know the worst thing for people to do is just pick up the phone and call people. This right here will make you 10 times more money than not picking it up. So the layer that we're going to put in with Ignite this time, and this is the part I really, really, really want you to get. The layer that we're going to put in is when we say lead generation, I'm going to share with you just like reconnecting with the people that you already know. Okay. You have a database, a list of people that you already know. And when we say lead generate, I'm saying you can go to that list. That list, they already know you. We're going to talk about this a little bit more in a second. But that list, you can work it without being a salesperson. You do not have to be a salesperson at all, right? So we're going to take that list of those people who already kind of know who you are, or you might know who they are for any other for whatever reason. And I'm going to show you without a shadow of a doubt that you can close 100 transactions from that list of people every single year from here to eternity. In fact, it'll be even more than that. You'll capture 100 sales by accident. And it's going to be so obvious. You should get excited about this round of Ignite, and you should get excited about lead generation. Because when I hear lead generation, I don't hear call strangers and try and use scripts and try and convince them to stay on the phone and talk to me a little longer. Now, that doesn't mean I don't do it. Right? If I need a shot of business if I need that adrenaline shot of business, I will call FSBOs and expireds all day long. I'm very comfortable. I built my business on that. However, I'm going to tell you there's a way easier path that gets a lot better results. And in the MREA book, they talk about it as not METs or METs. And the not MET group is a 50-to-1 return, and the MET group is a 12-to-2 return. Now, if you're talking about ratios, 50-to-1 and 12-to-2, right? 50-to-1 or 12-to-2, is it zooming in on it? I don't know if you can see it. Hopefully you can see it. 12-to-2 is actually 6 to 8 times more business than 50-to-1. 6 to 8 times more business. So our industry is teaching us to go get the next deal, get the next deal, get the next deal. And that's calling habit mets or for sale by owners or expireds or circle prospecting. Those are people we haven't met before. And we're trying to get them on the phone so we can convert them into business, right? And we're calling until we can get the next deal, the next appointment, the next whatever, right? And we're going to share those real numbers and how they pan out and why you have to call 100 people to get 1 or 2 appointments. However, on the inner ring, once you meet them or get them on the phone and talk to them and you start a relationship with them and then you stay in touch with them 8 times in 8 weeks and 36 times a year, like the MREA book shows us, you're going to get 12 to 2. That means 2 pieces of business for every 12 people that are on this plan. We talk about this in more detail in one of the upcoming sessions, but I want you to get it now that 12 to 2 is 6 to 8 times more business. And it's from the same group of people that we're operating from at 50 to 1. If you just take 1,000 people here and you get a 50 to 1 conversion rate, you can close 1 deal for every 50 people on that list, right? If you take those same 1,000 people and you connected with them and you stayed in touch with them on a real true 8x8 and 36 touch, you can get 2 pieces of business for every 12 people. That is 6 to 8 times more business. So that's what the layer that I want you to keep in mind as you go through Ignite. The whole time is we're focused on the people you already know as your lead generation, and you're still going to focus on some of the habit mets because you need a listing right now. But I'm going to share those numbers with you here in a minute, why they work out the way they do. Let's see what time we got here. Oh yeah, we're good. So in Spark, basically, we're talking about the foundational stuff in the Spark stuff. And then the essentials, we're talking about the actual how to do it. Okay. So it starts with your sphere. This is the part I want you to focus on. People like working with people they know, like, and trust. So there are already a bunch of people in your community. There's a bunch of people. There's 100 sales a year minimum happening with every single one of you on this call. And so I want you to, if you have a piece of paper and you're taking notes, I want you to write these numbers down. And if you have to pull it up on your screen, pull up your Facebook page and go to your friends list and write down how many friends you have on your Facebook friends list right now, whatever that number is. I don't care if some of them are realtors. I don't care if some of them are family out of state. Just write down your friend's number, okay? And actually, if you guys are doing this and you're sitting in front of your computer, go ahead and post some of your numbers so I can see what numbers you're posting in the chat box, or even unmute yourself if you don't have the chat box and just start yelling out some numbers. What do you have on your friends list? How many?
602.
600? See if there's any other ones.
1,053.
Say that again.
1,053.
1,053. I'm seeing 462, 435, 2459. All right. Next thing. While you're looking at that up, go ahead and pull out your phone, right? And if you go to, I know this is with iPhone. So if the Android users, if you can share how you do this, but I go to my contacts. Oh, why is it got to be so difficult? All right, if I go to my contacts on my phone and I scroll to the very bottom, hit the Z and go down to the very bottom, it'll tell you how many contacts you have in your phone. If you found that number, start posting that in there or unmute yourself and tell me what you've got.
440.
440. Android users, do you have a way that you are able to see what your total contacts are in your phone?
I have an Android. Hi, John Ortega. For us, it shows it on the top instead of the bottom.
Shows you right at the top when you go into contacts?
Yeah.
How many you have?
224.
224. All right, we got some other numbers. 1821, 5,096. Woo! That's a realtor that is not a secret agent, right? All right, here's the thing. If you take those two numbers and add them up, I'm going to guess that most of you are probably around 1,000 or more. And if you're not at 1,000, you're close. You're either 500, 600, 800, somewhere in there. And if you're, and if that's the case, you might even be pretty new to real estate, because in real estate, you're out in the community, you're meeting people, you're going to start having more friends pop in, you're going to have more people calling you about things as you're building your real estate business. If your numbers are low, then that means you're going to be on the phone reconnecting with the people that you haven't connected with in a while, that aren't in your phone yet and not on your Facebook friends list. And believe me, I get it. There are some people that are like, oh, I don't get caught up in that Facebook stuff. I don't really use Facebook. I use that as an example because it is such an easy way for us to connect with our friends, right? And if you've asked them or accepted their friend thing, then you probably know them. Now, for the most part, there may be some in there you don't know, but think about this for a minute. So the thing is that you don't talk to these people every single day. If you have a database, if you actually have a database that you're tracking and start writing, what's that number? How many people do you have in your database? Probably another 100, 200. Some of you probably have 500 to 1,000. Some of you might even have 3,000 to 5,000. So again, if they're in your database, then that's somebody that you cross paths with somewhere along the way, or you had them on the phone, you talked to them, you got their email address, whatever. It still could be internet leads. I get that. So that's our lead generation time of our haven't met ring. And so we put them in our database. So now the goal is to connect with every single person on this list that you just wrote down. Add up your numbers. If it's 1,000, 2,000, whatever it is. In fact, if you guys want to now post your totals, go ahead and post your totals in the chat box of how many people you have between Facebook, your phone, and your database. Because I really want to be really clear about these numbers, and everybody have a number written down. Because here's what we know. Everybody moves about every how often? Every what, 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years? What's our group going to say is the consensus on the average? Let's hear some numbers.
7 to 10.
7 to 10. What's that?
5 to 7.
5 to 7. Anybody else have a good idea, know for sure kind of what your feeling is? All right, so we got 5, we got 7, and we got 10. So for this session, we're going to go with the 7. Okay. So if you have 1,000 people in your database, 1,000 people on your list, and you divide that by 7, what's that number? It's not a trick question.
My total was 2343.
2343 is your total number of people, right?
Right. Divided by 7.
Divided by 7. So, and that's actually is probably that's a real number. Divided by 7, that is 334 for you, right? If you had 1,000 divided by 7 is what? 142, right? Guys, that number represents what we just said right here. Now, if they're staying in their house 10 years, then 2,343 is 234 people are moving in the next 12 months. If they're staying in their property for 10 years, that's still 234 of those people who are already on your list are moving in the next 10 years, every year for the next 10 years. If you have 1,000 people on your list, it's 100 people are moving in the next 10 years or next year for the next 10 years. If you're at 5, then it's double, right? So if you have 1,000 people and you think they're moving every 5 years, then really technically for every 1,000 people on your list that have crossed paths with you somewhere, it's 200 of them are moving this year, and 200 are moving next year, and 200 are moving the next year, and 200 are moving the next year. Which brings me to, guys, my mission in life is to prove that we all have an opportunity to sell over 100 properties a year. In fact, that's the only reason why I'm here speaking to you today, is because I've been averaging 100 sales a year for over 20 consecutive years. Actually, the last 2 years, I don't know if you guys have seen It's a documentary where the guy eats McDonald's every day for 30 days and he tracks his health all the way through to see how bad eating McDonald's is for you, right? Not that you're going to go eat McDonald's for breakfast, lunch, and dinner for 30 days straight, but he was trying to show that over time, you're going to affect your health when you do that, right? I went solo for the last 2 years. I went solo for the last 2 years in my real estate business to see how many transactions one agent without even an assistant could do. I don't really advertise it a whole lot because we talk about leverage in Keller Williams. And believe me, the last 2 years, I've had zero leverage. I mean, I literally was racing back from St. Louis, Missouri, 3 hours away from Kansas City is where I am. Racing back from St. Louis to go show a property. I literally drove 3 hours, dropped my wife off, set the stuff in the driveway and took off and had to go show a house because I don't have leverage if I'm working by myself. I don't have somebody that could just go show the property. Now I could call any agent in the other office and see if they do that, but I knew I could get home, so I did it myself. So the leverage definitely will have real estate control your life. However, the proof was not that you're going to not get leverage at some point. The proof was if you did that, how many sales could you make as an individual agent? Let me tell you, the last 2 years, it's been about 70 sales a year. And I've probably lost about 30 or 40 deals that I know they were in my database. They were captured, might've been an internet lead. And I just didn't work it so hard that I was there to capture the business. And they were in my system, on my follow-up system, and I didn't get the business and they bought something. So I actually have tracked the business I've lost too. But the thing is that real estate didn't control my life, which is why I only did 70. I still had fun. I still do my family stuff. I still do my nights and weekends. I pop out and go show a house here and there. But at 70 sales a year, guys, you do not need a team of 10, 20 people. You probably don't even need a team of more than 1.5 people. So I do have a part-time assistant now just to help make sure contracts are clean. I probably don't technically need her, but I also do because it's just a lot of stuff I don't like to do. But the point is that there's so many systems running on my follow-up that if I just do what my system tells me to do for the day, which is make my calls, that's my lead generation time. But really all I'm doing is calling and talking to people that I've already met, I've already written a handwritten note to, and now they're just on my forever drip plan for the next 10 years that I call them 4 times a year, like the MREA book suggests. And the system tells me when it's been 3 months since the last call. And it'll tell me when the next 3 months are from now when I make the call today. And I have those spread out throughout the year. So I'm not doing anything in bulk. I'm just doing a few calls every single day. And that's my lead generation time. Because with this number right here, write this down. If it's every 5 to 10 years, then that means only 10% to 20% of the database is moving this year. Let me tell you why lead generation is so frustrating for you. If 10 to 20% of your total list is moving this year, you have to divide that by 12. So 10 divided by 12 is less than 1. 20 divided by 12 is a little more than 1, right? Probably close to 1.5. So that means if I wanted to get a sale this month, right now this month, I'd have to call 1,000 people to figure out who the 1 to 1.5 people are that are moving this month. Now, 20 or 200 of the 1,000 people, that might be a bigger number to use on the example. Let's just say with the 100 people. Like if you were doing bold and you want to do your bold 100, that is to call 100 people or to have 100 two-way conversations with 100 people about real estate in one day. So you might have to dial 200 numbers or 250 numbers to get 100 people to pick up the phone. And out of those 100 people that pick up the phone, maybe 30 or 40 people don't hang up on you, right? And the other ones were real short, wanted to get you off the phone as quick as they could. And out of those 20 or 30 people, realize out of 100 people, 10 of them are moving this year, or 20 of them are moving this year. If you're using 10 years or 5 years, 10 to 20 of them are moving this year. but I got to call 100 people to find the 1 or 2 that are moving this month out of those 100 people. Does that make sense? I hope like I explained that very clearly. Because if you miss this number, you'll miss the whole every agent 100, and you'll miss layering this in when you go through your Ignite, and you'll miss the easy way to lead generate every day. It's the people that already know you, like you, and trust you. They want to do business with you. They want to see you succeed, right? So that is the focus that I want you to layer in here. If you don't have a list of for sale by owners one day, you're going straight to this list. Or either better yet is call your list until you connect with 5 people a day, and then go work on your FSBOs and expireds. Because the 5 people a day are going, they're really Mets, but they've moved back into the haven't met realm because you haven't connected with them in a while. When you look at that number, those 2,300 people, and not to say point somebody out specifically, but whatever your number is, how many of those people have you talked to in the last 2 to 3 weeks? How many of that 2,300, how many of that 1,000, how many of that 1,400 have actually heard your voice in the last 3 or 4 weeks? And I'm going to bet, because I've coached this stuff for a long time, it's hardly any, probably close to 0. It's way closer to 0 than it is any other number for many of you. So what you're going to do is work on this list. This is going to be your lead generation list to practice scripts on. Really, not even that yet, just to call and connect. Call now while you don't know any scripts, and while you're not necessarily saying, hey, are you thinking about buying or selling real estate, right? Just call the list to say, how are you? How's the family? We're going to talk more about that as we get into some of the other sessions. But you need to reconnect with them first, because remember, 98% of them are not moving right now. Only 1 to 2% are moving this month at any given time. So everything else you ever hear about real estate on how to find business is got a 1 to 3% return. That means if you need 10 deals, you're going to have to call 1,000 people. It's a 1 to 3%. There is nothing else on the planet that's going to get you a higher return than that. You can call your own sphere of people, and it's still 1 to 3% of them are moving right now, because the average person moves every 5 to 10 years. So always know that if you can get back into relationship with people while they're not selling, they're going to know to call you when they are selling. And one other thing is, you don't have to try and then call them on the day that they decide they might want to sell, so they're one of the 1%. When you stay in touch with them over time, sometime in the next year to 2 years to 10 years, when they are ready, you've talked to them 3 or 4 or 5 times, that they are going to call you automatically because you're their go-to person. And you became their go-to person because you didn't bug them about real estate because they weren't moving, and you knew they weren't moving. You know, when you ask somebody, hey, who's the next person you know it's buying or selling real estate? Has anybody used that script? Let me just see a show of hands. Are you thinking about buying or selling real estate? And if they said no, right? Then you said, do you know anybody else that is, right? And how many times do they always have a name ready for you? Like none, because only 1% of anybody's moving at any given moment in the day. So that's where I would turn that around and go, you know what? I didn't really expect you to know anybody. However, if you do hear of somebody thinking of buying or selling, say like in the next week while you're still thinking about this phone call, because after a week, they're not going to remember it, right? So if you think of somebody in the next week that says the word real estate, will you just tune in? And if they're somebody you know and they're thinking of buying or selling, will you call me with their name and number, right? So the friends and family are going to love helping you guys. This is probably the most important thing we can cover today. And this is how you get off this roller coaster ride of a business, because what you'll see in the very first hump here, that is when you were like got all excited about something, or you took bold and you actually had a list of people to call, and you just worked really hard and you called until you got a couple pieces of business. And then you had to go take care of all that business and get all these contracts figured out and put out the fires and keep the contract alive and all that stuff. And you weren't doing what got you there. And so then your business goes back down. And then as soon as it closes, you realize you're back out of business again. So you start calling again. And when you call 5 people a day, every day, and write 5 notes a day, and you just connect, and then you're just going to put them on a follow-up system. You can spread all that out over time versus trying to do it in chunks. and you'll get a consistent flow of business to where you don't get on that roller coaster ride. Here's your script. This is the most important script that you can get out of today. The only script you need is how's the family, right? How you been doing at work? How's work with all this stuff, the new world we live in, blah, blah, blah. You know, what have you been doing for fun? That's an easy one to have during COVID. What are you doing for fun? And then the dreams, it's 4. This is an old sales script, but dreams are really can be anything. Another way to look at this is called FROG, for family, recreation, occupation, and goals. Or it's just think of dreams, goals. If you even get to this part of the conversation, it's just kind of like, hey, is there anything I can do to help, you know, with anything you've been working on, anything you've been wanting to get accomplished, whether that's improving the house, adding a deck, finding a boat, getting your taxes done. You know, I have a connection of people around that I connect my friends and family with other business owners that provide high level of service like me. Right. So that's what the dreams and goals and things are, is like, is there anything going on in their life that you could help connect them with somebody? Because when you become a connector of people, now you may not have your list of vendors yet, who the inspectors are, who the whatever. I'm telling you, look at everybody in this room. They're all around there, and somebody has an inspector that they use every single time. Somebody else has a handyman they use every single time. Somebody else has a plumber they use every single time. Highly recommend them. You can get that list pretty easily, but you'll build that as you need it. Okay. So knowing the tools. So as you're going through Spark, everything's kind of tied around command, and we're doing this in an hour. So understand this is not a command session. This is not a tech class where we're going to go into command and we're going to work on stuff. We have 1 hour to cover a lot of stuff that I do want you to go to command, and I want you to use command every single day. If you have another database that you're using and you love it and your entire business runs on it and you are established, then that's great. I mean, you can use that. What I use command for is my haven't met database, because it's got so much automated follow-up. My current database, which is number 17, I think, my 17th database I'm on. And believe me, you're never going to find a database you love. So just be okay with the one you have. If you're not using one, command your database. Okay. If you have one, use command as a haven't met database. Like, this is your met. This is what runs my business. But I'm using this so I can learn command. I can plug people into it every day. I can try out some of the game plans or the action plans. I just imported the entire list of all of you guys into command. I don't even know if it went in there or not. It's the first time I've imported in command. So we're going to see how that works and see if I can use command to communicate with you guys while we're going through Ignite and share information throughout the week. So that's my new trial thing for this week. But I use command every single day, because the only way they're ever going to get it to work the way we want it to work is to use it every day and tell them what's not working. So I have to use command every single day, even though I run my business in another database. Once the haven't met stuff's running and I understand it and I fed it every day and I'm starting plans and it's working, now I can just start moving people out of my old database into the new database. And that's how I got to 17. Sometimes it'll take a year or two to get everybody moved over. But if you don't have a database, this is it, right? And you're going to be able to create tasks and reminders. And that's what the whole campaign and action plan thing. I do not expect you to get this right now. This is our very first session. Understand, though, we're going to create some systems that you can automate your entire contract to close process. You can automate your 8x8 and your 36 touch so that every single person you connect with, you put them in command and you start them on an 8x8, which, by the way, that smart plan is there. And it will tell you it's time to call them at week 4 and call them at week 8. It'll tell you that the plan has ended to start the next plan. And that becomes your task list every single day, your on-purpose list. First part of the day, I'm going to make my calls. I'm going to do all my to-do. Well, I do my to-dos first. They might be a social media post or, send them something in the mail, a market update, whatever. And then I'll go to my calls, because it'll probably be about 9 o'clock by then. I can do my calls from 9 to 11, get those calls knocked out, and then go react to the rest of the day, right? So command will have all this stuff in there for you. So commit to it, use it every single day while you guys are going through here. Even if you don't use command, you've tried using it, you don't like it, just use it while you're here. I plug people into it every single day. Let's see. So we already talked about how often everybody moves. You're going to have access to on your phone, your sphere. Start moving those people from Facebook into command. Start moving them out of your phone list into command. And we're just going to wrap up here in just a couple of minutes, guys, because all this is telling you in the Ignite toolkit, you're going to have all the workbooks in there, the action items. If you at all during this session, during this next 18 sessions, have a question or lost, you will all be able to find me. I mean, all you have to do is Google Brad Korn Real Estate, and you're going to find my phone number, my email, my cell phone. Call me. I mean, we're in this together for the next 18 weeks. I will talk to you. I will answer your phone. If you get my voicemail because I'm in an appointment, I'll call you back. Just leave me a voicemail. Send me a text message, whatever. In fact, I'll just go ahead and post my cell phone number in here right now. It's 816-215-3214. Oh, and that previous thing is for you. We'll have a Survey Monkey. Like, you can just tell us a little bit about the class, what you liked, all that other stuff. And I know I'm talking really fast on this first one, so it doesn't change. So hopefully you can hang with me. And if I talk too fast, you slow me down by raising your hand and say, can you give me that again? Because you won't be the only person that didn't hear a script or things like that. Now, technically, if it's a long script, I'll probably email it to you after the class, or have you all send me an email if you want it, and whatever. And then my email is just my regular, this is my regular real estate email. I'm just going to give you the cornteamkc@gmail.com. I don't know if my phone number went. 816-215-3214 is my cell. There you go. All right, so all these tools will be available to you. I will also send reminders every once in a while to remind you to pull a booklet up or what session. I'll put the links right there so you don't have to go find them, okay? And as we go through the Spark, the different things we're going to talk about is the lead generation. That's the core of your business. Your databases, your business is a big one. Setting, all of them are big, actually. Every time I go through this, there's so much in there. I get so excited about the class and everything to share with you guys. Every one of these topics are just absolutely amazing. And then when we go to elements, we're going to actually get into real world stuff that you guys can come back and use. So this will be your daily habit. If you get into the 10-4, where you add 10 new contacts to your database. Now, I said 5. That's the minimum, okay? 10 is the goal while you're in Ignite, because it's igniting your business. We're blasting you off. We're going to make January 2022 will be the result of what you guys do from this day forward as we go through Ignite. You put 10 people in, you're going to get twice the results in 2022 than if you put 5. But 5 is the absolute minimum. But you're going to speak with 10 people in your database. You're going to write 10 notes a day. Guys, if you talk to 10 people in your database and you write 5 notes, that doesn't match up. If you talk to 10 people, write 10 notes. If you talk to 5 people, write 5 notes. If don't talk to 20 people and write 2 notes. I mean, it says right here, 10 and do 10. Preview 10 homes a week. So again, with COVID, that's a little bit different depending on where your market is and stuff. If you guys did 10 a week, it's 2 a day, 5 days a week. I know that's a huge commitment, but it will help you understand the market and what's out there and what people are asking for. Maybe even just pull up the new listings for the day and the ones that are in the area that you're looking at. All right, and that's really about what Spark is. So anyway, that's what we do. We get to the ahas here. I'm going to open it up if you guys had any questions, ahas. I know we talked a lot of really fast, but in the rest of the book, you'll have your assignments. You'll have some scripts that you can use. You can always bring those scripts back to me if you have questions, but we do only have an hour. So I want to make sure I cover the most stuff that you can grow your business with. And if there's specific things that happen while you're doing this, that script is going to come in handy, that's where your extra work by reviewing the book before and after the class will come in and help. Because if you had a situation where you could have used a script or you have a question about it, you can bring that up right now and we'll address it because somebody else may have had it too. So a couple minutes over. I would have to say I'm consistently a couple minutes over. If you're in the class for the second time, we seem to go about 5 minutes over, 7 minutes over every single time. And most of that is just to be able to answer questions. So I'm going to shut up for a second. If you want to ask any questions, give me any feedback on if you're excited about this session or holy crud, I can't even keep up. I need to take a speed pill or something to keep up with you, Brad. Whatever. Share what you guys are getting or ask any questions you might have.
I have a question, Brad. I
Yes.
am excited. I've been an agent for a month, so I'm taking all of this in and learning everything, trying to learn everything. I wanted to know what you mean by preview 10 homes. Do you mean physically seeing 10 homes or online, the MLS?
Yeah, no, and do you pronounce your name Lucia?
Actually, it's Lucia.
Lucia.
I know.
Okay, well, I knew that was
I'm
my
not
second guess.
Okay.
Yeah, so Lucia, the reason why you
Yes.
do that is when I got into real estate in 1991, I was in Minnesota. I went and got my real estate license, did all that stuff, and first 3 years was horrible. I mean, I'm like trying to figure out what to do. All they did was throw me in a room with a phone and say, call everybody you know. I wasn't even from there. When 3 years in, I moved back to Kansas City, where I'm from, and I decided to stay in real estate and really give it a shot and get on purpose. And, you know, I'd gone to training classes and I'd heard stuff before and was just kind of letting it flow. But I got on purpose when I moved back to Kansas City, because at that point I had 3 young girls and experienced my first divorce, and I'm in a commission only business, and I just moved to a new market. When I moved to Kansas City, everything was listed by neighborhood names, like communities and things like that. In Minnesota, we had map coordinates and some other stuff. And I was like, how in the world would anybody ever know that's Willowbrook and that's Brookside and that's this and that's that? So the reason why you actually go preview 10 homes a week is you're going to start with the area that you really want to do well in. Okay. And you're going to learn that market by being in those houses, because if you're new to real estate, you don't know if a house is overpriced right now or not. You don't know if a house is underpriced that well or not. I mean, we kind of might have an idea if you've just been paying attention to it. But if you went and looked at 2 houses a day, every day, like let's just say it's on your way into the office or on your way out, and you just schedule in a neighborhood that you like 2 previews, and you're going to take 5 minutes. It's not like you're walking through shopping. You're just going to run through the house and look at things, and then you're going to watch that price and see what it ends up selling for. And you did that 2 days a week, 2 times a day, 5 days a week. If you did that for a month or two, you will know more about the market than experienced agents know about the market. So it's just a way for you to catapult your knowledge, because what most newer agents don't have is the confidence that they know enough about the market to really talk intelligently. So we sometimes say things that we don't know for sure, or the best answer is, hey, that's a great question. I've got a group of people I've been in business with, or they've been in business for over 20 years, and I can go find that answer out, right? That's the best answer. But it gives you the confidence to know what's going on in the market. Pretty soon, people will be coming to you saying, hey, do you think this is a good price? I'm about ready to list this property, right? So that's what that's there for. And honestly, it's probably about a 30-minute commitment a day for you to master your craft, and pricing properties is the most difficult thing to do, right? So
you
cool,
do
great.
that by scheduling an open house?
Yeah, depending on what it is.
Not
in
an
your
open
area.
house, I'm sorry.
You guys preview. You should be able to just go like you're scheduling a showing, and you might have a preview option. You guys might be able to answer that question better for your area. We have a preview, we have a showing, we have a second showing. So there's options when I set that showing up. Or just call the listing agent. Yeah, just call the listing agent and say, hey, I am new to real estate. This is an area I really love, and I wanted to preview your home. So if I do any open houses or get any sign calls or ad calls, and that your listing might work out, I'd like to see the inside of it. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. And that's just mastering your craft. So this is now, we're not going to try real estate and see if it works. We're making a commitment that this is going to be a business, and I'm going to master my craft.
Okay.
Great question. Anybody else have anything you want to ask? Okay. What we will do is, and I'll stay on as long as you guys have stuff to ask. That part's not limited to the hour. However, if you guys have any questions or anything outside of that, let me know. I think that's it for today. We're going to be back on Wednesday at the same time, same bat channel.